Hello, everyone, and welcome to African Conservation Podcast. Today with us is Mia Collis from Nairobi, who's a photographer born and raised in Kenya. Hello, Mia.
Hi.
How are you, and how would you describe your path to where you are now? Like the kind of work you did before, what was important for you?
Well, I started photography at the age when I was a teenager, and my grandfather was a photographer. So when he died, he left me with all his cameras and his equipment and lenses, and so that was really super, a big leg up
Yeah,
into my life.
for sure.
I was sent to a boarding school when I was 13. Actually, I chose a boarding school. I chose the boarding school, and it was really tough, really, really tough. But what I discovered was a dark room, and we
Ah,
had literally one of the best dark rooms in the southwest of England. And so I went as an athlete on a bursary, and I came out of a photographer because I spent 5 years in a dark room making prints, basically. And so I
nice.
was really glad that I had that ground in actual film.
Yeah.
And then I went to university and I did anthropology for a degree. I really was dead set on traveling the world and documenting interesting people and places to go. Um, and uh, and I ended up working actually on an American TV show for a while,
Ah, okay.
traveling the world. And that allowed me to really see some very exotic places. Um, and from there, I just kind of went back to university because that was bang in the middle of university. And I started out in both film and photography.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice.
And then later
You've
on in
been
my career.
You've been working in film, like in the film and photography industry in East Africa as well, I guess, since the American thing.
Yeah.
Any interesting projects you want to mention, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we I we had some really fascinating projects and when I was working in film production which was and film fixing which was a company called Viewfinders here, so we would facilitate any single international crew that would come into Kenya that wanted to shoot wildlife, and we'd also facilitate in other countries as well. So you name it, we saw it all and all their really interesting species, and the focuses on you know naked mole rats in Savo to you know ants, to termites, to you know giants of elephants, to whole ecosystems. And we'd have crews that would come out and spend 8 months here. Literally two guys sitting in a hide, waiting, and working with scientists and all of that. So that was a really wonderful and interesting part of my career. Yeah, I really, really
Yeah, when you
enjoyed
say
that.
fixing, do you mean like organizing? What does it mean exactly, fixing?
Yeah, so we would make it happen. The crews would call us up and say, "Okay, we wanna shoot this pride of lions in the Mara. When, where, how, who? What do we do? Where do we stay? Who are the best scientists to call? Like, where do we even start?" And we would put it together for them.
You
Yeah.
you mentioned Mara. What kind of work did you guys do in Mara?
Oh goodness. Well, so that would be part of the whole. There was tons of jobs that would happen in the Mara, which would they'd be photographing lots and lots of ones on the migration. There was the marsh pride in the Mara, which was a big focus of quite a few film crews that kept on coming back to look at that.
Yeah.
There was a ton of different stories. Yeah,
I remember you mentioned working with what's the name? There was zebra people, right? Is it more in the
yeah,
north?
yeah. So exactly. So that's so Zebra People was the project that
Okay.
we kind of developed between myself and the Grevy's Zebra Trust. And it was in partnership with the Grevy's Zebra Trust, who are a conservation organization that look over basically the Grevy zebras in the north of Kenya. And they're pretty incredible, actually.
So those
Yeah.
people, are they like Samburu people or what kind of, is it like a different because Masai are more to the south of Kenya or maybe Bogoria, Naivasha, but if you go up north, it's more like Samburu, Rendile, or what kind of tribe is it working with the zebras?
Yeah, 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 exactly. So there was a mixture, there is a mixture. At the time when I was working there was Rendili, Samburu, Gabra, which is the north, and it will come to me. There was a couple of others, but mainly Samburu,
Okay.
mainly Samburu. Yeah,
So what's their point
yeah.
of view, like on the gravy zebra? What kind of conservation issues, or challenges is there in the area?
Well, I mean, they have a huge challenge. So they're focused on one, obviously on one species, which is the Grevy's zebra, which is a critically endangered zebra. There are more of them. There are more Grevy zebras in the United States in zoos than there are now in their natural habitat in northern Kenya and in southern Sudan and I'm not sure if they're around Ethiopia, but that whole northern area of Kenya of East Africa. But I think they're, because of the safety of Kenya, they're probably all in Kenya now.
Yes.
Um, and they live in an extremely environmentally, I suppose, harsh environment. There's lots of kind of lava rock, there's thick bush, it's very, very hot, there's big plains, there's very little water at times. And there's just really a few roads. There's still vast tracts of land without any road access. So it's a really clever, the Grevy Zebra Trust is a really clever organization in the sense that it pulled in the people. It pulled in the people of the north, generally the Samburu, but also there's other tribes that I mentioned, and it works so strongly with the community, and that's why I feel it's a real kind of quiet revolution, without much of us, many people really knowing a lot about it, but it is a quiet revolution in conservation. So these guys are walking hundreds of miles, every week to track, document, and then report back this critically endangered species. And so that's a team of Samburu warriors, and then you've got whole sections of the other, of community who are working with the grasslands, trying to regenerate grass, which is an amazing whole system in the north. And yeah, and at the time, I was working with the warriors, so I traveled, walked with them with camels for a good 5 days to see where they go and what they do. And we left the road literally for 5 days and camped on lava fields and under the stars and tracked these incredible animals, generally through their spores and also their feces. So we just kind of and when we saw one, it was like Christmas, you know. Saying,
Yeah, I
oh,
can imagine
yeah,
tracking in thick bush up there would be very tricky. Even if it's like the idea of camping under the stars is beautiful, but still, those guys, they know how to read the ground, read the spores.
yeah,
And what are
yeah.
the challenges? Is it more like you said, the grass? Maybe there's overgrazing in some areas, but what about, is there
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
bushmeat poaching or not in this area?
Um, yeah, I mean, there
Snares?
definitely would be, but yeah, definitely snares. Less so from the Samburu because they don't eat bush meat.
No.
It's rare that you find Samburu and so it would be other tribes coming in to put snares down. But yes, that does exist for sure. But I think probably the biggest threat is climate change and overgrazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the difficulties when you're on the ground like this for days, walking with camels, you have to bring all your gear with you. You are several of you, or just yourself with your camera. How does it work?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So but we had camels so they could also carry our stuff, which was really
Mm.
great. But we had rucksacks on and my cameras are heavy. I'd carry two at a time. So I could shoot with the wide and shoot with the long. And then obviously you've got to carry water, and it's really, really super hot. Boots on, lots of scorpions, just proper wildlife, buffaloes and lions, and you name it. So everything to be watching out for. Um, yeah, it was really very exciting.
And the welcome from the warriors, the Samburus, when you meet them, they like all of them, they chose this path of conservation and protecting the zebras for a long time. They have to be convinced, or how does it, do you know how it works? Or like, are they recruited or
Yeah,
volunteers?
it's a good question, and I think it should probably. I'm not sure if I'm qualified really to like fully talk about it in a
Yeah,
deep
of
way,
course.
but um, I think that they. I think probably the first time they were recruited, there was probably a lot of of dialogue about why and what these guys are doing and why they need these. But I think now it's such a kind of famous organization in that area, that the next stream of warriors is quite a privilege to become a zebra warrior,
Nice.
and take over into the next batch. And I think when I had just finished the project, it was really a couple of years later where those warriors were retired and they became elder warriors, and a whole new batch came in. I think it was about 12 people, 10 or 12 people, and maybe there's been another one since then. But they'll do it for, a good amount of years, a good amount of years, and it's a very good job. It's a very good job. And what was so obvious about this whole thing was that it was a deep love for what they're doing. Like they really knew that they were doing something that was really positive towards their environment.
Yeah.
And there was real pride in their work. So that was very cool. And the project culminated with an exhibition at the National Museum of Kenya, which was, and this was, I suppose, my anthropological side coming out. I wanted to see through their eyes, their life, what they're doing. So they had been with the Grevi Zebra Trust. They'd been carrying around little cameras,
Ah,
for they're taking pictures and they're reporting back to the trust, and showing what's going on. Um, and what's so fabulous was they were taking pictures of not just zebras when they saw them, of the Grevi zebras. They were taking pictures of, like, their gun when they were, sitting down and having supper, and their tent that they just put up, and the moon. And so it was like they were documenting their whole life as a Grevi zebra warrior, which was so fascinating. And we then exhibited these pictures in the National Museum, it was showing the life of their life. They were showing their lives. They were giving us a little insight into what they do and how they live. And then I did portraits, very, very kind of, I almost feel like very, very different and static portraits of them as warriors, that complemented their journey. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm sure that not many Kenyans know about the work that those guys do. If they're not interested, if you don't look up Gravy Zebra's Trust, like you cannot know what's
Yeah.
going on. At least the images can bring knowledge to so many people about what's going on, about the dangers that the whole area faces. Like you said, climate change, overgrazing. And I guess
Right.
when there's cattle, maybe the zebras, they're afraid and they'll go away, if there's too many people, I'm sure.
Yeah,
It's too
yeah,
populated.
absolutely. And we also experienced a really incredible thing, which was the Samburu herders who would be coming in with their cattle in severe drought, and the zebras the Grevi zebras would kind of, animals are so intelligent. They would see that this human with this herd of cows knows where the water is, so would just tag along with the herd of cows. And
Mm.
quite more than often, the herder would just accept the Grevi zebra as part of the herd. And so I photographed that, just herds of cattle with a few Grevi zebras inside that would just follow the herder for months, just because they knew that where the water was. So it was this herd of cattle and some zebras, basically, that would go with. And that was a really fascinating, it was really, really interesting to watch that kind of human animal dynamic.
Yeah, it was the same. I remember in Tanzania, like in Natron or Ngorongoro, it's a bit the same. You have zebras, a few wildebeests, and they tag
Mm.
along with the cattle. Like they stay
Oh,
together. They're all
interesting.
mammals and they need
Yeah,
grass. And like you said,
yeah,
the herders, they don't mind. So just leave them,
yeah,
they let them be. And it's a beautiful sight.
yeah. That's so
Beautiful.
interesting. And would it be for the same reason? Were they trying to find water, do you
Yeah,
think? Or
yeah,
they
same.
knew where the grass was? I think they're probably
Yeah,
super
because
intelligent.
so
Yeah.
much, so much. And they're very resilient. Like
Mhm.
Grevy's zebra, like we saw some in Meru. It was so dry, there was nothing, but you could see the babies healthy. It was like, you guys know where to go. Like
Yeah.
elephants is another story, but zebras,
Yeah.
they're so smart, so smart.
Yeah.
Very, very
So
smart.
smart. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
mentioned some day before that you also did some work for Sheldrick Wildlife Trust.
Yeah.
Was it in Savo or where was it?
Yeah. So I've been working for the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust on a freelance basis quite intensively for 9 years.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and it's a really, really, really quite unique and wonderful job. I feel extremely fortunate to be able to to be able to do it. Um, I'll get called up by Angela, who's CEO of the trust, Angela Sheldrick, and it will either be for a story where she'll say, "Okay, we've got this happening. There's a translocation of babies from Nairobi to Tsavo," or there's this incredible ex-orphan that hasn't been seen for 10 years and they've come back, and or there's a vet treatment that really needs to be documented, or there's a rhino notching, so there'll be something really interesting. Or she'll just say, would you just go to Savo and do your magic, just document what's going on in Ithumba. Yeah. And so before I had kids, which was 3 years ago, I would sometimes be in Savo for 18 days at a time, just being deeply immersed in elephants. So it would be in three locations within Savo. So it would be in Ithumba, which is one of their reintegration units, in Voi, which is another reintegration unit, and Umani Springs, which is just out on the edge of Savo in the Kibwezi Forest,
Yeah.
which is another reintegration unit. Yeah. And then the Nairobi nursery, I photographed there a lot
Yeah,
as well.
close to home.
Yeah.
When do you do film for them or mainly pictures?
Just still, just
Just
stills. Yeah.
film.
They have a Yeah, just stills. So they have a really talented videographer that just does video, and I just do the stills. Yeah.
Are you by yourself when you go?
Often, yeah. In the past for sure. And when I was in Kaluku, I would really kindly get enveloped by the family, the Sheldrick Trust family. But then I would, at times I would just be in a Thumba by myself or in Voi. Um, but I'd never really say I'm by myself because I was latched onto the keepers, these incredible human beings who watch over and um, grow up essentially with these elephants, or watch these elephants grow up until they're integrated, and they reintegrate them back into the wild. And so the keepers were my gateway into an elephant world. They were the translators. They were everything to me, absolutely everything. Yeah.
How does the elephant react, to someone taking pictures? They don't really care, or even if it's a close-up,
Yeah,
they
that's a
don't.
really good question. It's a really good question. Elephants are just like human beings. They have that range of emotions and complexities that we do have as well. So I'll never forget in my first few months photographing in the Nairobi nursery, where I was working on a book with the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, and it was and Daphne Sheldrick, Angela's mother. Um, and I remember photographing and suddenly this and having this really great keeper, Julius, standing beside me, who was kind of translating what was going on. And every time I wanted to photograph this one elephant called Ambo, this other elephant, the same elephant, would just come and block me, just stand sideways in front of the camera every single time. So I would kind of think, okay, so you're a bit annoying, you're in the way. So I'd kind of move around, and the same elephant would just come and stand in front of the camera again and block me. And I started to just, this was really recurrent. And so I said to Julius, what's going on? He said, oh, well, she's blocking you because she doesn't want you to photograph her friend. I mean, it was that complex. That's it. I mean, it's literally, he was just like that. That's what's going on. He doesn't want you to photograph Ambo. And and that was it. I mean, then that was a real insight into how intelligent these creatures are. And what I also realized was I shoot a lot, so I'm clicking, 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 and I'm moving around and I'm going up and down, and some of them are a bit like, they kind of get irritated and they'll do a kind of side kick, to
Yes.
try and kind of get me out the way or move me on, or and as I would be if someone was doing that to me, I'd be like, can you please move away? Just like not really enjoying this attention. And others really love it. They just will thrive at the attention that they're getting. So it's just like human beings.
Exactly the same. I sound like teens. So teens and
Yeah,
pictures, some like it, some
totally.
don't like it.
Yeah, totally.
Elephants. I got a lot of
Yeah.
elephants. And
So
what's
interesting.
your
Yeah.
like your nice, like the projects you're exciting for this year in 2026? Do you have a few that you can share,
Well, I
no
really
secrets?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got to there's a whole bunch of freelance work. So I'll be going back to the Sheldricks next week,
Okay.
to photograph, at the Nairobi nursery because it's beautiful light at the moment. And they've got a baby zebra and a baby rhino that kind of think they're the same and they're hanging out together all times. So I want to kind of capture that
Yeah.
just at this time, as well as the herd. I feel it's time to exhibit again. I
Yes.
had my last major exhibition in 2016, which was a very, very long time ago. So that's the mission for this year, is to get out there and properly show my work again. I feel it's time. I'm 3 years into having a very young family, and I feel I'm finally kind of breathing a bit and able to maybe get a little bit of space.
Yes,
And so
time.
I would like to really focus on that. Yeah. The the line of that, I'm not quite sure whether it's old work that I show or whether I kind of plonk myself into somewhere and really just get immersed in some um, new story or idea. I'm not quite sure, but I would like to have an exhibition. So that's
Yeah,
the
you were
that.
saying maybe change a little bit the subject. Would it still be, Sheldrick and elephants? Is there another park in Kenya that you would love to go and how do you say like and showcase in your work?
Um, Good question. I mean, I've spent, last year I did a couple of long projects in the Mara, of all places, where always quite kind of pulling back from because I feel like it's so crowded. But I do feel the accessibility of it and the plunge into wildlife there is really super interesting, and you can get very close. I'm taking a wildlife workshop, wildlife photography workshop in at a place called Enasoit in northern Kenya, in Laikipia.
Yeah.
It's a really, really beautiful space, and they have a watering hole right there in front of the camp where you'll get a complete mix of species that just comes in daily. And I did a photo shoot there with a London fashion brand there at the beginning of last year. And you can just get this incredible accessibility to the wildlife right there with somebody standing right in front of it. So I feel like going back there and really photographing the wildlife might be a super interesting thing to do. So
Yeah.
that's somewhere that
That's
really
nice.
interested me. The
Do they have a
Mara.
hide or is just you sit by the water
No,
hole?
you don't even have to, they don't have a hide. I mean, it's that incredible. You can just get quite close because you're just the watering hole is almost like the barrier.
Ah,
It's
okay.
really interesting. And it's also a basin. So Enisoit is a conservancy basin where and it's in between, I think it's Oljogi and I'm not sure what's on the other side.
Yeah.
But it's a corridor as well. So you just get this amazing amount of wildlife that walk through there. It was really quite having lived here my whole life, I was super interested and impressed by it. I thought, how have I not been here before? Because it's really quite amazing.
But there's so
Yeah,
many conservancies in Kenya. I'm sure like it's difficult to visit all of them in a lifetime. There's just so many beautiful
that's true.
places, like you
Yeah,
said, where they care about the corridors, care about the environment and the
yeah,
communities. Maybe
yeah.
what about doing some work related to conservation and the communities? Is there an angle to this that
Yeah,
could be
I mean,
doable?
so that's 100%. So that's what I really love actually. And that was the whole Grevy's zebra side, which
Yeah,
was really
sure.
pretty exciting, to do. So yes, if I could find something, perhaps not the Grevy Zebra Trust, because or maybe even to just revisit them. I'd love to just have a conversation with them. But to find something where humans and animals are working together in that regard would be really great. Yeah. So watch this space. I would be super interested.
We will
Yeah.
watch it for sure, for sure. No,
Yeah.
no, being a photographer in Kenya, some people might think it's easy. Like you said, Mara is not that far and you're like right in the middle of it. But there are some places that not many people showcase in their work. And like you said, doing an exhibition and showing a little bit of everything, maybe like a quiet little project that needs hearing, some major wildlife space, and let's say a bit of storytelling. There's so many projects that you can do. Sheldrick, I'm sure, do they also work with communities, Sheldrick? Like
Very
outreach?
much.
They do, huh?
Very, very much. Yeah. Yeah, they do. They've got a whole they've got a whole bee thing going. They have hives everywhere and communities who are kind of creating beehives. They work with a ton of children and schools around all the way around the park. And they feed upon a ton of communities, but they also have this school program where every day they take about 50 kids into the park and then they also take them to either Thumba or Voi to see the elephants and they have this incredible wildlife, I suppose, teacher
Yeah.
who goes with them called Sammy, who educates them into what they're seeing and what they're doing. So that's really cool, and that happens. So that's thousands of kids a year by the trust get to go into the park and see actually what's going on.
Because when you mention exhibits, do you mean in Nairobi or outside of Kenya?
I think I'd probably start in Nairobi, although I think that there is it's not wildlife related though. An exhibit in London with some of my
Okay,
work this year in April. Yeah.
nice.
But
So
it's
when you do an exhibit in Nairobi, um, like local Kenyans, let's say youth, like you said, school children, if they are brought to the museum or to the exhibition to watch, are
yeah.
they concerned, interested, intrigued? I'm sure they're intrigued, no, by the work that you show. There must be.
Yeah, I mean I think it's I if there's some way within my work, especially on conservation, to inspire or give back, and if it just does that to one person in 100 people, then I feel where I've kind of done my job, and it's the same. It's almost the same as comparison as a zoo to some degree. I mean, very, very different, but
Yeah.
what I'm doing is showing work to people that would never have that reach ever in their life. And so to be able to see an image that they think, wow, that's so different and interesting. I want to see that in real life, or I want to work out how to become a ranger, or that's really cool. Just like kids, that's why I'm not a proponent of animals being locked up, but I am supportive of zoos only in the sense of children or people who are from very kind of marginalized,
Yeah.
underprivileged spaces, going into a space and seeing an animal and thinking, wow, I didn't even know that existed on the planet, and that sparks something, and then them, wanting to change. And so I think that's a very important thing. And it would be the same thing with my work if it can change, even just cause some kind of emotion to some degree, then I think I've done my job.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Do you see like a new generation of photographers in Kenya coming up? Like
Very,
young
very much,
adults,
very much.
taking a camera?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Totally. Yeah, and they're so great and really, really amazing at what they're doing. And I really put that down to just an explosion in social media and internet. We have access to it finally here. And so people can learn and they can um and there's some amazing kit houses here that I hire my kit now from, which is, it's extremely affordable. You can hire a camera for a day and you can go out and shoot something. You can get a 600 lens and you can go out into the Mara and you can shoot something, or the Nairobi National Park, or you can go wherever you want. But it's all much more accessible, and I'm just seeing like a pool of talent that I've never seen before, and so that's really, really exciting.
So you say it's something quite recent, this like interest in conservation photography, or is it wildlife photography or more conservation photography?
I think there's both. I
Bit of
think there's
both.
still far too few both conservation and wildlife Kenyan photographers. They're 100% coming, becoming more and more, which is really, really cool. Um, there's a ton of people photographers and press photographers and
Ah, yes.
commercial photographers and wedding photographers. But I'd say there's more conservation and wildlife photographers than we've ever had. It's just still less than the other pool of photographers, you
Yeah.
know, within other aspects of photography. Yeah,
Still, it's improving. It's a good sign, huh?
definitely. It's improving, yeah. And some great stuff. So that's really exciting.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it must be like all that you've done with the zebras, with Sheldrick and the elephants. Like I can't wait, to hopefully come and see the exhibition myself. Not sure, but at least see it
Thank you,
virtually.
Matthew. I'll send you an invite for sure, 100%.
Yeah. So I hope you find something for this year. Would be very nice.
Thank
And,
you. Thank
like
you.
it's always nice, even if you do like a bit of old pictures, new projects.
Yeah.
I do have a few photographers or painters around me, and I know sometimes they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do a few more canvases, brand new." Yes, but some of the old work that you did is very powerful, and the impact of images, even if the picture is 20 years old, still
Yeah.
has a lot of power today, like a lot,
Yeah.
a lot, a
Yeah,
lot.
you're right. You're right.
So
You're
it
right.
it doesn't
And
have to
that's
be brand new.
yeah, you're right. You're right. And I feel like I've kind of been I've just been on a little bit more of a go slow having a young family for the last 3 years. So it might just have to be pulled from
Yeah, but you have a very
old
good
life.
excuse. Like raising a family is priority, and work comes second, huh? Always.
Yeah, at the moment for sure. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Mia, for today. It was very interesting,
Yeah.
very, very much.
Matthew, thank you.
And I look forward to meeting you in Nairobi someday.
100%. Please
Yes,
come
for
look me up
sure.
when you're
For
here.
sure. Next time I'm in Kenya,
Yeah.
I'll drop by.
Thanks, Matthew.
You have a good day.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.